So morning guys, so I think we'll look to start now. I think everyone's joined. Obviously anyone else that comes in, we can just, as I say, that someone joins the waiting room. Give me 2 seconds. So just wait for Sharon to get connected and then we'll get started. Brilliant. So obviously good morning everyone, and obviously thank you for joining today. So we've got the digital transformation and marketing Q&A with 3 of our growth hub specialists. So we've got Alan Bloomfield, who's one of our specialist digital advisors, along with Beth Hughes as a specialist digital advisor for the Staffordshire Chambers of Commerce ITFET project that they're running. And then we have Fiona Miller, one of our own, our specialist marketing advisor from the Growth Hub. So obviously you can bring in any questions that you've got today to ask these guys and they'll be more than happy to help. And then any further information that you want and anything that it is we have available, we can obviously get into as well. So a massive thank you to all 3 for joining again this morning. But I'll just do a quick introduction to the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Growth Hub first and what it is that we do as an organisation. So the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Growth Hub is one of 38 growth hubs in the UK that was formed by centralised government to help unlock private sector growth and business support through the programmes that they have available. So with around 150 referral partner organisations, we can support pretty much every business that is available, every business that is in the area really. So we work under the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire LEP area. And we have loads of different programmes. So we work with funding partners, we work with training organisations. We obviously have our in-house specialists, which is HR, marketing, international trade, finance and funding, and recovery and growth. And then I'll just play one of our growth videos now that'll explain it a little bit further for you.
Introducing Evolving Enterprise from Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Growth Hub, a unique package of fully funded services to help enterprising businesses across Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire to fuel their growth ambitions. The first step is to call the business helpline to speak with a qualified advisor. Our helpline offers a comprehensive triage service to unlock fully funded support. For the next step, our accredited business advisors will complete a one-to-one diagnostic tailored to each individual business, which will then identify the specialist support needed. Following your diagnostic, our specialists will support you in the relevant areas to evolve your business. The areas our specialists cover are recovery and growth, HR, marketing, international trade, and finance. Take the first steps in evolving your enterprise by contacting our business helpline. Our business advisors and specialists are ready to help you. Call us on 0300 111 8002.
So that should just sort of delve into a little bit further of what it is that the growth will do and what we have available and how's the best way to contact us. So obviously you can contact the business helpline and speak to an advisor, and then they'll pass you on to the specialist people that you would need to speak to. And then the Gearing for Growth 2022 campaign is something that we decided to run following sort of the resilience of Staffordshire businesses over the pandemic. And we also wanted to support Staffordshire businesses moving forward into 2022 and help their growth aspirations and get them to meet them. So we've brought together all of the partners that we think are applicable. And then it will be a celebration event on the 28th of March at Aston Marina at the Boathouse, where a number of exhibitors will be available and they'll be speaking on behalf of their programmes and what it is that they have to offer. And there'll also be some grant applications and things available throughout the day. But as part of the campaign, we're obviously running this webinar along with a host of other ones that are all available via the website if you were interested in attending any others. So I'll just play the launch video for you now, which will delve into that a little bit further as well. Brilliant. So that should sort of introduce the Growth Hub and the Gearing for Growth 2022 campaign, and obviously what it was that we were aiming to do with this. And I think so far it's been going really well, and we found it to be really successful. And obviously we really want to help you guys and your businesses moving forward. So any questions that you might have or anything further that you might want to know, obviously you're more than welcome to ask now or at the end, or contact us further in the future. But today, obviously, the whole point of this was to meet our experts and the specialist areas of expertise that we have available, so you can bring any questions that you might have on digital transformation and marketing, and then give a bit of an introduction and to each advisor that we have available, and they can then answer the questions for you. So I'll just head over to the next slide now, and then I'll let each advisor introduce themselves and detail through the rest of their specialisms. I'll hand over to Alan first, as he's on the first on our list.
Okay. Thanks, Trish. So my name's Alan Bloomfield. I've worked for the Chamber now for about nearly 2 years, and I run the IT BET programme, which Trish mentioned. The IT BET programme is IT Business Enhancement Programme, and what that is to support the local businesses in putting digital transformation at the heart of their business. And my background is I'm ex-BT, so I worked for BT for over 30 years. So that was dealing with things like IP telephony, cloud-based telephone systems, infrastructure, right the way up to sort of the importance of having CRM systems within your business. We also deal with things like enterprise resource planning tools and different applications like that in terms of what will help drive your business. So over to Beth, I think is next. Is it Trish?
Yeah, that'd be brilliant if we hand over to Beth next.
Hello, morning everybody. So yeah, Alan's basically explained about the IT BET scheme. So we kind of work as a bit of a team really. So Alan's got his background with BT and he's just gone through kind of what he focuses on. My background, I've recently come to the Chamber, I think it was September the 20th from Vodafone, where I worked in social media. So that's kind of my background more recently. But in the past, I have actually run my own business for 5 years. So I'm quite used to using things like e-commerce platforms, different websites. I'm quite clued up on different payment systems. So what Alan doesn't know about that I do, what I don't know about things like IT infrastructure, Alan knows about. So we kind of work as a little duo really. So sometimes we'll go out to see businesses together, sometimes we'll see them separately. But yeah, that's basically how we fit together as kind of our little jigsaw.
Brilliant, thanks Beth. Sorry Fiona, you were just going to say if you want to introduce yourself now.
Thanks, Trish. So good morning, everyone. I'm Fiona Miller. I'm the Specialist Marketing Advisor for Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Growth Hub. I've been in the position now for around 3 years and I've got about 17 years of marketing experience. So over the time, you can imagine with marketing, there's been a rapid change in the landscape, particularly recently with digital, but originally it was very heavily led around traditional marketing. So I've got that as a background, also very much offline marketing and now with the digital as well. So I can advise on a 360-degree approach to ensure that you're getting the best out of your marketing. My passion and expertise lies very much around marketing strategy. So if you sometimes feel that you don't know where to place your marketing or you're not sure if it's working or not, what we can usually do there is underpin that with a marketing strategy, which then enables you to measure it against your objectives. And very much looking forward to today's call. I'll welcome any questions on any element of marketing. If there's something that we can't advise on today, then all three of us are able to provide a one-to-one session to look at anything in more detail with you. But hopefully we won't have anything that's too unusual today, although we'll perhaps set that as a challenge to see if there's a question that we can't answer. And then, like I say, we can do that in a one-to-one once we've had a little look into it for you. Thanks, Trish.
Brilliant, thanks Fiona. So obviously that's all of our specialists introduced that we've got today and their areas of expertise on the screen. So more than anything now really guys, it's over to you. Any questions that you may have. So if we all just want to check that the sort of hand raise buttons are working, and then you can either sort of take yourselves off mute to speak or just pop the question in the chat box and then I can ask the relevant advisor for you, whatever you guys would prefer. Is there anyone that's got any questions to start with? see Fiona's hands working. Well, have we got any questions from any of the attendees at all at the moment? Okay. Right, what we'll do then is we'll start off with one. Oh, just a second. We've got two at the moment. So, Abby, do you want to go first?
Hi, yeah, I thought I'd just introduce myself. So my name's Abigail Roberts. I work for a commercial fencing company called Boundary Services. We're jumping on the call today really just to understand what the Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire Growth Hub is. And my first question would be, so to, all the three experts here today, hi, nice to meet you. We're looking at basically elements of all three aspects which the three of you can offer advice for. So if we wanted to kind of, instead of having a meeting one-to-one, could we arrange a meeting with all three of you? Obviously, if we proposed what we'd like to speak about via an agenda, would that be something that's possible, and how would we do that?
Shall I take that one? Hi, Abby. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for your question. We're more than happy to be flexible in that way. If that's what works for you better, then we're happy to get together. We do tend to all work solo, and that's purely just because of the time it usually takes to work with each specialist and then move on. So it usually tends to be a session of around an hour. If you feel that you've got questions that you can bring all together, then we're more than happy to get through those with the three of us, and hopefully, speaking for Beth and Alan there, that wouldn't be a problem.
No, definitely. I think sometimes as well, if you're all together in one place, it kind of flows quite well, and you can bounce different ideas off each other as well. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, we're looking at all the elements you've mentioned today collectively, the three of you. We're looking at all of those things at the moment as a focus. So I think it'd be good to have a bigger picture understanding from the three of you on how all those elements can tie together to make sure that it's a success at the end of the day.
Okay, Abby, what I'll do after the meeting today is I'm going to contact all the participants anyway with my details. Just send an introductory email. So by all means, just come back to us on that email, and we'll arrange something to chat your requirements through, if that's okay.
Perfect, absolutely fine. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Abby.
Brilliant, thank you guys. I think Ian's got a question next.
Yeah, Ian Picking. I've recently joined Access Engineering in Tunstall. They've got a question. We've got some literature around the digital Grow Digital funds that are available. And it mentions that there's currently 3 vendors available. We were wondering whether it's restricted, that fund is restricted to purely those 3 vendors.
I'm sorry, Ian, can I just jump in? It's not very clear. We can't hear you very well.
Okay.
And if that's your mic or your connection, or
Possibly, I'm going to plug it back.
It sounds a little bit like you're underwater.
Feels that way sometimes. If you can't see me,
That's better, much better. Thank you, Ian.
Okay. Yeah, Ian Picking. I've recently joined AXA, based in Tunstall. We've got some basic literature about the Grow Digital funds that are available, and it mentions that there's 3 vendors participating. Now, we were wondering whether that fund is restricted to those 3 vendors, those 3 systems, or if there's a broader access to the fund that can be made. The company uses something called Zero, and is looking to potentially expand Zero, or perhaps replace it with a better system.
So Ian, is this, just to clarify, is this the Help to Grow Digital scheme on the government website? Yeah.
Help to Grow Digital, yeah.
Right, okay. So yeah, at the moment, because I had a bit of a play around with it myself as if I was a business, just to see what comes up. And you're quite right, it is restricted just to specific well, it's either CRM systems or digital accountancy at the moment, isn't it? What was the system that you just mentioned? Sorry.
They're using something called Zero. Excuse me, I've only literally just joined last week. But the problem that they're finding is that it's an accountancy system, so they're processing orders through it, and it's reached its capacity in terms of adjusting inventory stock. So the stock adjustments, you can have it free up to a certain capacity, but the company now has exceeded that, so needs either a bolt-on into Zero system to expand out its capacity, or a more robust, bigger system that can do the accountancy, processing the orders, but also doing the stock adjustments as well. At the moment, they're having to do that on a manual basis.
Yeah, so I think at the moment, what's on there is all that's currently available. Just having a bit of a delve into the background, I think if there was going to be any extra systems added on, it would be more along the e-commerce platforms. So at the moment, as Help to Grow Digital goes, that is all that's available at the moment. But I'm not sure if there could be potentially some other funding that could help you with those systems. I don't know if Fiona or Alan, you're aware of any at all.
So, sorry, just to jump in, guys. So we have the funding and finance advisor as well. Her name's Pam Wallace. Obviously, she's not available today, but she's obviously more than welcome to speak to any of you guys that are there, and she might be able to advise on any other funding pots that might be available for this. Obviously, I can't be 100% sure myself, so I wouldn't want to advise at the moment. But what we can do is we can put you in touch with our funding and finance advisor if you're happy for us to, Ian, once you spoke to one of the other guys, if you wanted to. And then we can look to sort of move forward from there, and she can advise whether there's anything available for you.
That'd be great. Yes, thank you.
No, that's no problem at all. Are you happy for me to pass your details over to her directly?
Yes, by all means. Yeah.
Perfect. I'll get that sorted
email
after today.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, no problem at all.
No.
So, was there anything else you wanted to add in, or is that everything? Just before I interrupt you.
No, specifically that. Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, no problem. So we have had a question in the chat box from Rose, who said, can we recommend any local experts in digital marketing specialisms such as SEO that are used to working with small businesses in their startup stage? The ones we've approached so far only seem interested in larger businesses and charging crazy retainers, which we can't afford at this stage. Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Rose. Yeah, I think it's a challenging space, SEO, and you've quite recently come up against that. As the Growth Hub, we aren't able to make any recommendations to local providers purely to keep our impartiality. But what I would recommend is working with the Chambers of Commerce, who are able to share their list of members with other members, and then you would have the chamber membership in common. Therefore, you would be able to work in partnership with some of the agencies who are willing to tackle smaller. I am more than happy to talk to you on a one-to-one about some small changes that you can make in-house that would help with your Google local SEO. Google's recently had an overhaul in the last around 3 years, whereby it's very much geared around the small business, and therefore it's made a lot of changes. I've got to say Google's made a lot of changes that enable local SEO to be more accessible to small businesses like yourself. And so there are some small changes that you can make with a little bit of guidance from the guides that Google produces to do that, such as adding local keywords and so forth. If it is that you wanted a review on whether your on-page SEO is up to speed and whether the website needs any on-page SEO before you look to go externally, then there is a programme for Staffordshire, which is run by the Economic Growth Team, and we can put you in touch for a review on that. Depending on the sector of the business that you have at the moment, Rose, that would dictate the level of advice that you could get because of the different funding streams. But we can certainly take you so far with funded advice, and hopefully that will be a lot better than the space that you're in at the moment. So that will be a one-to-one with myself in the first instance. And then if appropriate, I can put you in touch with a team who can perform a website review in depth and look to see is the SEO on page right. And then hopefully combined with adding a little bit of local SEO in that you can do yourself free of charge. That should put you in a little bit of a better space. And then if you did want to work with any chamber local agencies, if you are a chamber startup member, then you'd be able to tap into that list and go from there. Thank you. Hopefully that helps, but please let us know if you've got any further questions.
And I just add as well, Fiona, have you finished now? Yeah. I was just going to say, Rose, as well, that SEO can be quite daunting. I remember when I had my business, I was a bit like you, and I was approaching different companies because I didn't really understand SEO. I knew what it meant, but to me it was just so daunting, and it felt like this huge monster that I had to tackle, and I didn't feel confident enough. Had I known then what I know now about what support's out there and what's available in terms of training, I think I would have felt a lot more confident within myself. And I think if you took the time to do perhaps 1 or 2 very small courses on SEO, which are fully funded, which I can get in touch with you about. Most of them are online and it doesn't cost you anything. It might take you, I don't know, 3 to 5 hours to complete the course, but you'd have that basic understanding and knowledge yourself, which would mean that when you do speak to other businesses or agencies that are going to help you, it's less jargon, and it's you can understand what they're talking about more, and it kind of just demystifies SEO a little bit for you. So there's so much out there available in terms of help and courses and training, and I think that just giving yourself that tiny bit of upskill would give you so much more confidence as well moving forward. So I can definitely get some information over to you about courses that are available for you or your staff.
Beth, can I ask, would you be able to send that to me as well, please? I know the basics of SEO.
Yeah, of course.
And working with it, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Exactly.
And I think sometimes you know the basics, but then when you start getting a little bit more in depth, i.e. what you need to do to increase where you are on the rankings, what type of keywords you need to add, it just gets into kind of like a spider's web. And if you don't understand what you're being told, you kind of just need it told to you in layman's terms, I suppose. I just found the courses really straightforward, and it just gave me that basic knowledge and just that power that I needed to know that, yeah, I understand generally what's being said to me. So yeah, of course, I'll get that sent over to anybody who wants it.
Sorry, can I also be added to that list as well, please?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. I think we've also had a message in the chat from Lynn who said, "Hi Fiona, currently working on my marketing strategy with an intern that's working with me from Kiel. And I think there's something missing from it. I wonder if we could arrange a meeting to talk through it."
Morning, Len. I hope that you're well. Thanks for the question. I think it's fantastic that you're working with Kiel and using the interns to develop strategy. So that's great to hear. Absolutely. We can do it one of 2 ways. You can either send me what you've got and I'll do a review offline, and then we'll get together to talk through. What might be better though is to possibly put the meeting in, and then I'll get under the skin of what you're trying to achieve. And then when I'm reviewing the strategy, at least I've got a context. So we could do it either which way that you prefer. I think if we just have, like you say, a one-to-one whereby I can start to understand what you're trying to achieve and then make sure that everything's included in there. I know that when you've got your interns, it's you'll be really keen to maximise what they can do with you. So yes, let's get together.
Sure, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, and for anybody else, if you don't know, Kiel have an intern programme. If you contact Cathy England, their business person, you can get 3 interns working for you for 111 hours. So I've loved it. I think it's really good working with them. Good experience.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Just to jump on the back of what you just said there, just to reiterate, I think it's amazing for the interns themselves, because this opportunity for them is absolutely fantastic to come and work for a business. It's great for their development, it's great for their coursework, and it's also great for you guys, because these are the types of people who are learning up-to-date digital technology or up-to-date marketing strategy. They're the ones who've been taught right, what's up to date now, rather than perhaps we might be relying on things that we've learned years and years ago. So yeah, to get some of these guys in it's just brilliant for everybody involved, definitely.
So yes, let's get together, Lynn. Likewise with Alan, I will also be able to contact you afterwards. I'll drop you an email with my contact details and put something in the diary in the next few weeks.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you for that.
Brilliant. Is there any further questions at all? I can't see any in the chat box at the moment. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to ask? Can't see anyone raising their hand currently. Have you popped your hand back up, Abby, or is that from earlier? Just wanted to check. It's showing back up at the top.
That was from earlier, sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. One of them had disappeared, so just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing you out, that was all. So we have had a couple come in. Let me just get these up. So we've had one or two, well, a couple of questions actually emailed over. So to start with, we've got one for Alan at the minute. So it's mentioned about different types of broadband access, and someone said that they're unaware of the different types. Is there anything we can sort of elaborate or explain further?
Yeah, thanks, Trish. Yeah, as I say, obviously my background is XPT, so this is one of the things that I do cover. It's really important when it comes to looking at broadband products to run your business on, because when broadband was first developed, if you like, a lot of the service level agreements from the providers are for residential access. So you'll find that if you have a look on the terms and conditions, if your broadband goes down, it can be repaired for anything up to 5 days. So this is even before you start looking at bandwidth, etc. So it's really important that if your business relies on, especially like for e-commerce and stuff like that, and for interactions with the public, if your business relies solely on that, then really you need to probably look at what the service level agreements are. Now, you can go from a lease line to there's something called a lease line, which is a dedicated point to point, and that is from your premises to the closest POP site, which is where it joins the network, and that's an uncontended circuit. Now, the typical price for that for a relatively small business would be around about £250 a month. Obviously, that's a lot more than broadband, and that's just an estimated price. That though is then flexible depending on how much bandwidth you need at any one time, and that's where you'll get your biggest uncontended bandwidth, and that's called a lease line. Other products you've probably heard of as things like superfast broadband, gigabit, which is something that's being provided by Leela Connect at the moment. So they're running a gigabit circuit around the city of Stoke and now the outer lying areas. Staffordshire County Council are also running a project at the moment, Superfast Staffordshire. And if you get in contact with me, what I can do is I can do a survey of your postcode on a postcode finder, and it will tell you who are the providers that provide the best bandwidth, the best service in your area. So obviously, I know that we've got various rural areas across Staffordshire as well, and some of the providers are obviously reaching out to these areas. If it's not covered on that map, we then send feedback to the Superfast broadband team, and they then will lobby the providers to be able to get connections in those areas as soon as possible. There's a roadmap in terms of getting broadband to some of the more outreach areas. So as I say, so the main things to look at is when you come to select your broadband service for your business is actually look at the terms and conditions, because obviously if your broadband is off the air for any more than sort of a few hours, you could start to lose business, and that can really affect your business. And in times when we've got like the snow and stuff like that, the best service level agreements are the best. Also look at things like contention ratios. That's a bit like the old shared service. So although they might quote something like 80 megabit to the premises, if that's contended with another 20 users, when you've got like at certain peaks and demands throughout the day, you just won't have that. So there's a lot of information around both broadband and also Wi-Fi within the premises. And again, I can go through it in more detail if people want to get in touch with me. Does that answer the question, Trish?
Brilliant, thank you, Alan. No, definitely. I think even though these questions aren't specifically from the attendees we've got at the moment, it's definitely useful for people to know the answers to other people's questions, because it might be something they may not have thought of already. I think we've got a raised hand from Lynn.
Yeah, this is for Beth. Beth, I'm looking to set up some e-learning courses to sell online, and I've been looking into learning management systems and was considering using PayPal. I just wondered if that was the best option to go with, or from your experience, there were others that I should consider.
Yeah, so how would you be using it, Lynn? Would it be via your website?
It would be via the website, yes.
Okay, so yeah, a little bit like what Fiona mentioned earlier, it's difficult for us to necessarily recommend payment methods or anything really, because we have to remain impartial. But obviously you've got your main players when it comes to payment systems online. So PayPal's a very popular one, because I think it's just something that everybody's got access to. You've also got other things that you can plug in as payment systems. Just a couple of big names out there would be Stripe. That's another option that you could use. And also WorldPay, that's another option also. I think it would very much depend on how you were going to be selling. Is it online courses, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would it be like on a subscription basis, or would it just be kind of like a one-off payment?
I'm thinking to start off with a one-off payment, but advice I'm being given is that I should look at a subscription payment option, but not sure yet about that.
Yeah, what I think we could do, Lynn, is I could catch up with you separately afterwards, and I can just go through a few of the different payment options that there are and the pros and cons. Like I say, I can't really recommend one that would be best for you, but I could give you some options of different ones that are out there that offer the payment subscriptions as well as just one-offs. But I think as a rule, it'd be looking into the volume of sales and also what cut they take. So there's three things to look at really: the ease of the customer making the payment, how easy it is for you to plug into your website at the back end, and then also the percentage that they take from you for processing that payment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can definitely catch up with you separately and go through a few different options. That's no problem.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
Definitely. Just one other thing to consider there is in terms of the throughput of your business. So if you're looking at doing your accounting online, you're using a digital accounting software such as QuickBooks as an example. You can use QuickBooks to take that payment, so that obviously from the time that customer presses the button and pays that money, it goes right the way through to entering itself onto your books. So if you use PayPal or something, it won't do that. So you've got in a way a fragmented journey.
Okay.
So it is something to look at. I'm not necessarily saying QuickBooks is the best, but I'm just looking at the sort of the journey of that money through your business, and you might find that easier because it might save you a number of entering data onto a database.
Okay,
and
that's
also, things like QuickBooks also interact with certain CRM systems, so you can then scrape the data from your accounting system onto your CRM and use it for marketing.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Right.
Good to know.
Brilliant, thank you guys. We have actually had a similar question emailed in regarding sort of payment systems and e-commerce platforms and what would be the best sort of system to use as such. I was wondering whether we could just elaborate a little bit more on a couple of the pros and cons at all, Beth, just obviously for the benefit of people that are on this and for the recording that will be made live on the website in the future.
Yeah, so e-commerce platforms, basically they are your storefront, so that's your shop. In the past, it's been quite tempting for people just to set up a website and an e-commerce platform, pop a payment system in so that when people get to the basket, they just pay and off they go, and kind of just leave it, because as a small business owner, you're probably everything. You're probably HR, you're probably doing payroll, your accounts, marketing. It's very easy from a digital perspective just to get a shop front and a payment system in place and then just leave it, because you think, well, that's job done, and off you go, which is normal for a small business owner. I've been there myself, and you just think once it's done, it's done. But I think that now you have to be on that digital transformation journey. I think I saw a quote that said 40% of small businesses will fail unless they continually evolve. So in terms of e-commerce platforms, there's some big ones out there. Shopify is a very popular one for e-commerce platforms. That could be taken over by somebody else next week. It's all about keeping your eye on the market, making sure that you're constantly updating your storefront, making sure that the new and upcoming different ways of making payments are integrated into there. So for an example, some people now, when they add things to the basket and go to check out, don't just want the option of paying by a debit card or credit card. They might want to take one of the new options that are really popular now, like ClearPay or Klarna, where they can pay in chunks. I know that that's really popular on, if you went on to, say, for example, Next and bought a top, that would be an option there. So it's about listening to what's out there. What do your customers want? Do they want to pay all in one go? Do they want to pay in stages? Do they want to be able to subscribe? And putting yourself in the customer's shoes and making sure that it takes as least clicks as possible to get from whatever they're purchasing right through to that checkout and that confirmation at the end. So yeah, I think it's just really about making sure that you're keeping an eye on anything that's digital, and your website and your payment systems are definitely something that can change quickly.
Thanks, Beth. So we've got another one here for Fiona actually now. So we've got someone's asked, what is meant by a marketing strategy, and what sort of things should this include? Where should they look to start, sort of thing?
Okay, thanks, Trish. Thanks for the question. So marketing strategy is a term that you'll hear as a business owner. You'll hear that bandied around so often, and I think it can feel like a little bit of a minefield. And there are various different ways depending on the size and scale of the business and what you're looking to achieve. Now, some businesses will want a very formal marketing strategy which outlines the full A to Z of what you're looking to achieve. And for some businesses that's not appropriate, and actually a side of A4 with some scribble on there is absolutely fine as well. So I try and encourage businesses, particularly smaller businesses, not to get too concerned or hung up about what that means in terms of being a strategy and how that looks. All that it needs to be able to do is give you some objectives to measure your marketing against. So a lot of the conversations that I have with businesses are concerned around results and whether the marketing's working or not. And a lot of the confusion that can arise from that is because businesses don't have any marketing objectives to measure against. So for me, it's really crucial within a marketing strategy, whatever that document looks like, that your objectives are outlined. And then that's where you would dial that back even further, because in order to develop those objectives, you'll need to make sure that the business and the marketing is appropriate for the environment externally and internally. So externally, that would be very much looking at your competitors, looking at your industry, looking at the wider political landscape in terms of the shifts that we're going through. For example, we've just been through an enormous shift with Brexit. Does that have any impact on your business? Also, of course, we all know the pandemic has drastically diverted the course of any activities we've been doing in business. So looking beyond the business externally is really useful for the business when you're developing these objectives, and also looking internally as well. The marketing strategy should be realistic, and those objectives should also be realistic. So if you don't have resource in the business and you don't have the skill set but you don't have the time and you don't have the budget to be able to pay for support, you'll need to be realistic and honest with yourself about what you can physically achieve. So I usually say to businesses, if you don't have budget, have a little bit of time, because at least that way then you can upskill yourself to be able to achieve some smaller elements of marketing. So once you've looked externally and internally and you feel that your objectives are appropriate for those two spaces, it's about looking at the business goals over the coming months and years and looking at the customer base and what you're able to achieve in order to meet those business goals. That might be that you want to just promote your existing products or services, or it might be that you actually want to develop new ones in line with, so perhaps you found a new piece of research when you were looking in the external environment. You might have noticed that a competitor offers something that you don't, and that you want to pivot into that space to remain competitive. And so therefore all this gathering of information in the early stages of developing a marketing strategy becomes really useful, because not only can you look at what platforms you want to go on and what that messaging is, but you can also look if you need to pivot the business to remain competitive. Once you've got that, really, the document itself would need to, for me, contain I'm just reading on the screen the questions and answers. It would need to have the business objectives. It would need to have the timescales that you want to run the campaigns over. It would need to look at budget, resource. Do you need to go out and develop skills? Are you going to look at external support? And then also a list of the products and services that you'll want to promote. By the time you've got to that point when you're developing a marketing strategy, you should likely have some messaging coming to the forefront of mind. Looking at the audience is really useful for this, because, for example, if you're a firm which trades business to business and you want to promote those goods and services to other businesses, that can start us to help us shape where you place the marketing. So you might want to look at channels such as LinkedIn rather than channels such as TikTok or Pinterest or the other new Instagram. So really, by the point of the time that you come to look at your, what I would call marketing tactics, which is the messaging, the channels, how you're going to achieve the strategy, those questions of where to place the marketing should already start to be framed, and you should be able to make those decisions. If anybody on the call today does want to look in detail at their marketing strategy and have a framework of what to include in there, then certainly look to book a one-to-one with myself. I have some useful hints and tips that include headers. Those headers would be, as we say, objectives, audience, budget, timescales, wider business goals, internal and external landscape. And then eventually, like we say, when you're doing the marketing plan and the tactics, it would be channels, messaging. And the key thing that most people sort of don't always find the time for when they're putting together a marketing strategy, particularly your small business owners like yourself. I know Beth alluded earlier that you are everything in that business, sometimes including HR and also the accountant. So I appreciate that you're very time poor, but metrics is a really huge area of marketing strategy. And a lot of businesses might feel that they don't understand platforms such as Google Analytics. That's okay. We can give you support on getting up to speed with that. But realistically, all you need to know is what you're measuring against. So by the time you've got your objectives, you can know if your marketing's working or not, because those objectives will be likely to include that you want to sell more of X product or service. And then you've got something to measure against when you're looking at those metrics. There is no one size fits all marketing strategy for any business. It's a question I'm asked a lot. If I could provide that answer of where to place it exactly and get it right first time, and I always answer that I'd be a very rich woman if I could. I think what people don't always realise is that marketing to some degree is trial and error, but it's intelligent trial, and it's error that's measured and tweaked. And if you can do those things, what you'll eventually hit on is your formula, and then it'll become a lot smoother because you know which marketing platforms work for you, and you can go from there. So sorry that was a very long answer. Hopefully that's answered some of the question and given some insight for the people on the call. But if you've got any further questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Fiona. I think Abby's got a question from what I can see.
Hi, yeah, so just touching on Google Analytics, would you be able to just provide a brief description on what it offers as a whole? I recently delved into it, so I'm kind of reading bits and bobs and watching YouTube videos to kind of get my head around things, just to understand exactly what it can offer.
Absolutely. I think Google Analytics, when you first go on to the Google Analytics platform, it can be a little bit nerve-wracking and quite scary because it's got a lot of technical terms on there like bounce rate and so forth. But actually what your Google Analytics can give you is the amount of web traffic that you have. And I will hand over to Beth in a second, because this is very much her area of expertise as well. But just in a nutshell from myself, Google Analytics can really give you a lot of insight if you learn to read it in a way that makes sense to you and also works with the platform. So for example, you've got bounce rate. Now, if you've got a high bounce rate, and that's anything really over 60%, you want to be aiming, I mean, 40 to 60 is in the middle. Anything lower than 40 is very, very good. If you've got a high bounce rate, and just to dissimulate that, what that actually means is that somebody's going onto a page and jumping off it very quickly. That really gives you some insight, because it says that they're not finding what they're looking for. That can show you then, where did that traffic come from? Because something's happened in the journey there, that they went onto that page and they got off of it very quickly. What is missing from that page? What were they looking for? So it can enable you in a way, if you do use your Google Analytics to that level, you can start to play detective. What you can also do as well, Abby, with your Google Analytics is just really do a sense check of if the marketing's working. You can look at your traffic volumes that you're getting and start to look at, are new customers coming on board to that website, or is it repeat all the time? So it's almost learning to read it like a detective, and once you can do that, and that just comes with time spent on there, and then you can get a lot out of it. But I'll hand over to Beth as well, who's very much the expert on websites and can talk to you in this in more detail.
Thanks, Fiona. Yeah, so Abby, I think Fiona's talking about it from a marketing perspective, which is absolutely fantastic. And I think that you'd need to use Google Analytics as well to look at the functionality of your website. Like Fiona just mentioned, if you've got quite a high bounce rate, something isn't right with that particular page. And what Google Analytics does is give you that information about the touch points and the traffic, what's happening to the traffic when it hits certain pages, to then let you think, like Fiona said, well, you need to do a bit of detective work here as to what's happening. So if it's a really key page for you, for example, it's where a sale would happen, or it's where there's information about the product and people are just looking at it and going away, you could use some other tools in conjunction with Google Analytics, which would maybe look at things like, how long does it take for that page to load? What is causing the delay in the page load? So that could sometimes affect your bounce rate. So it could be something as simple as a broken link somewhere in the background. It could be something as simple as a picture that's not the correct size or resolution. But going right back to your original question, in regards to Google Analytics, it can be daunting because it's a foreign language. And what do you do if you don't understand a foreign language? You need to translate that foreign language into something that you understand. And then it's, where do I go? So then you go to YouTube and there's an hour-long video and you get 10 minutes into that and you're thinking, nope, I'm lost already. I've been there myself. So going back to the support that's available in terms of upskilling, training yourself just in the basics. So much out there, Abby, so much that I am so shocked that I didn't know about, and I just will keep shouting about it from the rooftops. Available in terms of online courses, face-to-face courses as well that are fully funded, which just demystify things like SEO, Google Analytics, and just give you that confidence as a starting point, as a just basic level. What is it? What does it mean? How can I use it? So as I mentioned before, I'll send a list of these courses over to everybody who's been a participant on here, just to give you that empowerment to be able to have a streamlined vision of, this is what I want to learn, this is how long it's going to take, this is what I'm going to know by the end, rather than dipping your toes in bits and bobs of YouTube videos, which can be a few years old, sometimes out of date and sometimes a bit antiquated. So yeah, I'll definitely get that list sent out to everybody. And I've actually been on a couple of the courses, absolutely brilliant, and they're not too time consuming. I just felt like at the end a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, because I felt like at least I knew some of what people were talking about, and it just gave me that confidence to use it a little bit more. And I think that's the key, really.
Perfect. So I know obviously you can't say specific names, but the companies that can kind of work in conjunction with Google Analytics to provide information such as, like, is it a broken link, how long it takes for a page to load, are they easily founded by the web?
Yeah, so there's so many different ones. Myself and Alan, when we're doing our diagnostic reports, one of the first things we'll do is do a quick website and analyse your website using a couple of different sites that can be found on Google. If you literally just Googled page speed insights, you'll find a couple of tools, and it's so simple. You just pop your website in there and it will just run some analytics for you to see how good is your website performing on a PC, which 9 times out of 10 is usually better than on a mobile platform. And I think this is where sometimes it's really key to look at is, what do most people use to access your website? I would say for myself, I'm busy, I'm on the go, it'll be on my lunch break on my phone. It wouldn't be on my laptop. So making sure that you're using these analytics to look at how your website's optimized for mobile is really key as well. But to answer your question, if you Google page speed insights, you'll be able to find a couple of tools in there. Don't be too daunted when it comes up with, kind of gives you an analysis of all the things that are slowing your website down, and it goes into quite a lot of detail. Now, this is where people just think, oh crikey, I don't know what to do. This could be where you would get somebody in, a web developer or somebody who you could literally hand that over to and say, look, I know this is a situation with a few images that need sorting out or a few broken links. Here you go, can you do it? Because you've kind of done the hard work for them. Or, like we mentioned earlier on, it could be that if you haven't got the budget to get a web developer to do it, that's when you say, what can I use from our local community? What can I get from our local universities, our colleges? Is there somebody there who's a graduate or who's studying for a degree in things like web development or social media or anything digital that you could utilise to say, I've got a project for you. Can you come in and help me to make my website more efficient on a mobile platform? Or I've got a project for you. I've got a shop front on an e-commerce platform, but I'd like it to look a little bit different, or I'd like it to have different payment systems and a new look. That's where you can really reach out to, ourselves at the Growth Hub, our partners for training, and also universities and colleges, because I'm sure an intern or a graduate would love to get their teeth into your website and do all that for you, and also teach you as they go. I think really just leaning on each other and those guys at the unis is definitely another way forward if you've not got the budget to get a web developer on board to get these things fixed.
Perfect, thank you very much.
No worries. And if you did want any information, anybody, on internships, apprenticeships with local colleges and universities, I can also get that information sent out afterwards as well.
That would be useful.
Brilliant. Thanks, Beth. We have actually got a question that's quite similar to that we had come through. And someone had mentioned sort of how is it that they could sort of improve their CEO straight away almost is what she's kind of explained. So rather than doing sort of training courses and things, as you've mentioned, with being small businesses, typically it's one person that runs all of it. And I think what she's trying to say is sort of how can she get that implemented straight away? Is there any tips and tricks that you've got that they can increase that SEO just by making a couple of amendments on the website, or the analytics and things like that was what she was asking, if that's okay, Beth?
Yeah, so it's difficult really in regards to implementing something straight away, because there's all your normal things that you would do. If I was looking at a website, I would definitely run those speed checks, because even though some of the information that comes back at the end is quite in depth, it will literally fire out a list of things that are making things slow down. So for example, images, that's quite easy. Even if you didn't know anything about analytics or search engine optimization, you can literally go through a tick box session and at least get your images correctly. It's amazing how many images aren't the right resolution, or somebody's taken it on their iPhone and uploaded it on the back end of a website, which could take 26 seconds to load off a mobile phone. So I'd say the first thing to do definitely be to Google your page speed insights. Just pop your website in there, and as the first thing, I would definitely make sure that all your images are the right resolution and the right size, and it will give you the resolution and size that it needs to be on the report that it generates. That's quite easy to do. So if you've uploaded the picture already, it'd just be a case of either retaking it or resizing it. Another big one which affects SEO is videos that people upload. So people are uploading videos that are either too big, too long, or it's in collaboration with a link that isn't quite embedded correctly. And again, that's something that you don't need really any training for. That will come up on the same report. It's just a case of reconfiguring that video and uploading it. And I know this sounds really simple and probably something that you've already thought about, but it's amazing how often people don't. And that is pretend you're the customer. And so many businesses don't do that. So pretend you're a customer, get your iPad, your PC, your phone, and try and buy something, or try and load a page and make some notes. How long did it take? If you were on Next trying to buy a top, would you have gone off that page? Things like that. So it's putting yourself in the customer's shoes very much. And I think sometimes we rely on people or friends of a friend to build us a website and we just leave it. But it's definitely a case of putting yourself in the customer's shoes, and just small things like your images, your videos, and making sure that your text boxes aren't too long. People often will click off a page if you've got to read a huge, great big box of text. Just simple things like that, really. Anything other than that, if you wanted to really delve into SEO, I would definitely recommend a course, even if it's only a 1 hour course. You can go on Google Garage, which if you just typed in Google Garage, there's loads of free courses, sometimes 15 minutes. It'll just give you an insight and just that little bit of knowledge, which will make some of these simple things a little bit less daunting.
Brilliant. Thanks, Beth. So I think that's all the questions we've had now. I think we've got through everything, and obviously I hope that was really useful for everyone that's attended, and thank you all for staying. The webinar recording will be made available. I've popped the contact details for all of our specialist advisors that have been on the call today online. So if anyone does want to get in touch directly, they can do. Fiona, did you want to say something?
Yes, thanks. I just wanted to come back to Len's popped in the chat that she can see what's missing from a strategy. So that's really great that you've got that insight. But if you do still want to get together, we can certainly have a conversation privately as well. But really good to see that answers already supporting with what you wanted.
Thank you. I will get in touch with you, Fiona. I think I've got your email address, so we can arrange something.
Definitely, and I think Trish is possibly going to share details with you of our contact details. Is that right, Trish?
Yeah, so obviously all the details are available on the slide at the moment. If anyone wants me to send those out directly, we can do. And I think there's obviously yourselves have spoken to a couple of people that you're going to send things out to directly as well. So if we can get that all sorted, that would be brilliant. And then if anyone wants to make any further contact, obviously the business helpline is also available. And obviously the experts we have today, they can refer you over to anyone if you are already in touch with them. The slide deck will also be available on our YouTube channel once we've obviously had it edited and hashed by our design agency for the campaign, and they'll all be uploaded in the coming weeks, so they'll be available to view on there also.
Sorry to put in. I've just thought of something which I could just do with adding, if that's okay, just before everybody goes. Yeah, it was just in relation to the last question about the SEO. A key one which everybody always forgets is make sure that your business is on Google Maps. If it's not on Google Maps, when people search it, it's less likely to come up. I just thought I'd add that one in before we went.
Brilliant, thanks Beth. So what we'll do now is I will, if we haven't got any further questions from any of the attendees, I'll look to sort of close for now, and then obviously we can, if you do have any further questions, you're more than welcome to contact us all directly. Was there anything else from any of the other guys that are on here now, or is that everything? I think that's everything from what I can see. So brilliant. Thank you again to the advisors for attending today, and thank you all of you for staying. I hope it's been useful. And again, just to reiterate, like I said, you're more than welcome to contact any of us or the Growth Hub directly or the business helpline, and we'll always be more than happy to help how we can.
Thanks everyone. Good
Thank you.
Have a lovely day, guys. Thank you.